Masha, that was wonderful. Such contrasting perspectives, and it was wonderful hearing from all of you about your thoughts on writing. Now we're going to take a slightly different turn into a different art, the art of music. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our host for the next hour, Concordia Forum Vice Chair, Salma Ali. Salma, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mudassar. Thank you all for a very interesting conversation. It's been an amazing day so far. And I'm really honored to lead the conversation with an amazing musician, Ali Keeler. Ali, are you on our conversation here? Is Ali here?
It's looking for him. He's just joined.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Ali.
I see.
Hello?
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Ali?
Walaikum salam. You can't see me?
No, I can't see you.
Let me just see what I can do. Okay.
Now we can. So good to see you and so good to meet you for the first time over Zoom. Thank you for accepting our invitation and welcome to the Concordia family.
Thank you very much. I'm equally honored to be a guest here.
Mashallah, this isn't your first time with Concordia. You performed for us at our Concordia Forum retreat in Portugal. So we look forward to this conversation and to hearing you sing again for us.
Salma, can I just interrupt? Sorry, to just say, not only did Ali perform for us in Lisbon, but he performed for us many times in Rosales. And we did stuff with him in England. So our with Ali Keeler goes back, I'd say, Ali, at least 10 years.
Yeah. You remember when we were smoked out of the room? There was a fire at Rosales.
Oh yes, absolutely. So yeah,
my father was here. I remember it. Yeah.
Long history with Ali, and I'm so glad he's joined us. Sorry, I won't interrupt, but I had to add.
No, thank you for that.
Really glad. Yes.
Ali Keeler, as many of you know, is the founder of the Al Firdos Ensemble. He's joining us from Granada, Spain. And before we start our conversation, Ali, I would love to hear your life journey, your professional journey, what brought you to form the Al Firdos Ensemble and to hear you sing. But before we start, I wonder if I can ask you to recite from the Quran to begin this session. Ali is one of the most beautiful reciters of the Quran that I have heard. Just this week, he shared with me a surah that he's recited, Surah Maryam. And Ali, I have to tell you, I've listened to it over and over again. It brings me so much peace, particularly during this time. It is it is a balm, really, and it's so beautiful, so poetic, so lyrical, and I would love for all of us to enjoy your recitation to start us off.
Inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور نور على نور نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم آمنت بالله صدق الله العظيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا تقبل منا بنية الشفاء الفاتحة بسم الله
MashaAllah.
آمين الحمد لله
Ameen. MashaAllah, that was beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you. Such a beautiful way to start our conversation. I certainly want to ask you how you learned how to recite like that, but perhaps I'll just start at the beginning. You were born in London, and
yes.
you picked up the violin at the age of 7. Tell us about that. Tell us about your early years in London and studying in Manchester. What drew you to the violin? Are you from a musical family, or why the violin?
Yeah, I mean, my mother particularly is musical. You know, she had a folk band. It was a close friend of the family who played the violin, and he lent me my first violin, which was very small. And so I can't remember exactly how I got into it, but it seemed the natural instrument for me. And although I must say, my parents had a lot of patience because the violin is the worst instrument at the beginning. It sounds awful. Even the cat runs away from it, you know, at the beginning. So if it wasn't for the patience of my, particularly my mother, you know, insisting that I practice, you know, daily, then I wouldn't have got through that first tortuous year. After a year, it's not like the piano, you know, you just press a note, it's okay, you know. It's like to get a nice tone, a sound on the violin, it takes quite a long time, you know. So and then I used to go to in London. My father used to take me to concerts at the big halls, you know, the Royal Festival Hall, and the, you know, concerts of classical music. And I used to collect autographs I collected autographs of some of the great violinists. Most of them have passed away, and they were my at that age they were my heroes. You know, these great violinists, and so yeah, I really got into it, and it became in my life. You know, eventually, yeah, it was up to the age of 14. It was my life was it was the violin, you know.
And what type of music did you enjoy listening to and playing on your violin? And may I ask, do you have siblings? Are they also musically inclined?
Yeah, definitely. I have 3 brothers. My eldest brother plays the piano. He's got good level, and then my second eldest brother, he's 2 years older than me. He has a well-known rock band called Archive. Quite interesting because it's different kind of music, but they're very established. I mean, they've been going for 25 years now. So especially that, I mean, like they have a big fan base in France and well, all over. But so yeah, it's a musical family, but very different kinds of music. Yeah. So that I was totally in love with Western classical music. In my childhood, you know, Bach, Mozart, you know, these the great kind of classical composers, and that was kind of the music I played. We did have there was an exception because my father had got to know a master sitarist from India. So I was also brought up on this kind of music. I used to go to his concerts. So I did have a window onto another tradition, which would become more important later on in my life. Yeah.
If I may ask you a personal question, you had said that the violin was your life until age 14, and I know that that age was a turning point in your life as we were speaking earlier, getting to know each other. I wonder if you can talk about your journey to Islam. What brought you there? And may I ask, your family is Muslim or grow up in a Muslim family? What drew you to the faith?
My parents became Muslim, and when I was very young, so obviously I had an advantage, but they never, should we say, imposed Islam on us. You know, they didn't kind of bring us up as Muslims. You know, they left it to us to find our own way. You know, and although, you know, I remember when I was very small, because my parents had a beautiful zawiya, a special space, prayer space in the house, where you weren't allowed to romp. You know, and you had to respect that, and I used to join them in prayers, but it remained kind of dormant up until 14, and it's very strange. It was I didn't do any kind of reading, but I had suddenly this opening, an awakening, shall we say, that Islam was the way for me, and also Tawheed, because I was confused by the Christianity that I was taught at school. It seemed also very dead, you know, very hymn number 33, psalm number. It was just so kind of routine, and although I did enjoy some of the hymns, I must say, but there was something in it which was spiritually dead. And then also I had this confusion: who am I praying to? The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit? You know, the Trinity. I was so attracted, drawn to the Tawheed that I knew was within Islam, you know, and also suddenly I had this awakening that I think some people have at different ages, but at 14, you do something changes, and I became aware of my mortality and the fact that I had this life, this journey ahead of me, and that I needed this structure. I needed this structure, and that, like a map. And Islam gives you this beautiful map of how how you should live, and so it was a clear opening for me. And at the same time, my parents met Sheikh Nazim rahimahullah, and so I was initiated, who used to come to London in those days. It was during Ramadan, especially. He spent the whole of Ramadan there. So, and I was initiated into Islam through Sheikh Nazim at that age, at 14. Yeah, and that was a new opening for me. Then up to then, my only love was the violin, but then it changed, And in fact, for a time, I was just focused. It was just like, it was diving in this ocean, and I was just enjoying, that enthusiasm that you're given at the beginning, that gift of wanting to learn about this, your deen, and, embrace it and do as much as you can,
Mashallah.
Yeah. So
Such a beautiful story. I love the way that you describe it as an opening, and then the symbolism of diving into an ocean to learn as much as you can, to soak it all in. That's really, really beautiful. Is that when you started to learn to recite the Quran in this beautiful way?
Yeah. So I will go back a bit, rewind a little bit, because during the World of Islam Festival, which my father organized, which is 1976, as part of his research, he collected records. In those days, it was records, vinyl, records. He collected records of music from all over the world. And I remember there were two records that particularly caught me and inspired me, were this record of a great Quran reciter, Sheikh Mahmoud al-Khalil Husri. So I used to listen to this record. So already I was drawn to the recitation of the Quran as a musical form, like an art, listening to these records. And also, he also had a record of traditional Andalusian music. And that was also very, inspiring for me. So I already had an ear for this, the recitation of Quran. But yeah, so soon after I became Muslim, I started studying how to read Quran. I taught myself how to read, the script in a couple of years, I guess. First of all, I was learning surahs with the transliteration, and then taught myself.
And then your journey leads you to Syria. I think you were in your early 20s when you moved to Damascus.
That's right, yeah.
What took you there? And I believe you spent 10 years in Syria. What took you there, and what were you doing?
Yeah, well, I think it's maybe interesting for people to know this. But I was at music college in Manchester, and then I encountered a different kind of mentality, Muslim, and I found myself against the whole Muslim community, who were saying that what I was doing was totally haram. How could I think about playing the violin? Music was totally haram. And at the beginning, I said, well, my first sheikh, and was not of that opinion. Of course, in Tasawwuf, music has an important place, But so it was totally, everyone was against me, and and in the end, you know, I was still kind of young, quite new in Islam. I said, well, I must be wrong, you know, I must be. So suddenly, after my second term of studying the violin in Manchester, you know, specializing, I mean, and I was still going to become a violinist. That was kind of the career that I was following, a classical violinist. Although I had misgivings because I wasn't so happy. I thought it was very narrow, just classical music, this kind of mold. So, but anyway, after 2 terms, I quit everything. I quit music, and that was it, you know. And you know, against the wishes of my parents and, you know, others. And anyway, so, and then I focused on studying Arabic and, you know, other sciences of Islam, and that led me to this journey to Damascus. Yeah, it was interesting because in Damascus I came back to music, but through the voice, and through learning to the Quran recitation, and also learning to sing in the zawiyas, because I used to attend the Sufi gatherings in the zawiyas in both Damascus and Aleppo, and particularly in the Shadhili tariqa. The musical tradition is a very important science, because the changes of the maqams actually are used to help change the state during the dhikr. They are an aid to spiritual, should we say, inspiration. Yeah, so yeah, I kind of learned this, but I gradually got into it, but not through studying, just being there, you know, just kind of, what's that called, osmosis, or is that, I can't hear you.
Yes, osmosis.
So yeah, it was total osmosis, and hearing the adhan every day, just living in Damascus it was amazing, you know. Even the way they pray, the mu'adhin, and the way he answers the prayer, during, you know, he answers the takbirs and the different parts of the prayer, you know, is just full of music. And of course, this is greatly indebted to the Ottoman tradition, which, you know, the Ottoman tradition was so rich and enriched every part of the Islamic world that it touched, in terms of culture, in terms of music, and all the arts. You know, it you know, the arts, Islamic arts during the Ottoman time came to you know, a real peak, you know. Yeah.
An amazing journey so far, and your next destination is Granada. What brings you to Granada, and when you arrive there, you form this ensemble, I believe,
Yeah.
those ensemble. I'd love to hear about what brought you to Granada, and more about the Al Firdos ensemble. Tell us who's in it. It's a very multicultural group of people, and I wonder if I can ask you to tell us about your unique sound by singing something for us. Will you do that?
I will do. And if it's okay, I know it's not in the program, but can I invite a couple of my sons to join me?
We would love
Yeah.
it. We would love it.
I know Mudathir knows my sons as well. I'm not sure about the youngest, but he knows the elder ones. Yeah.
That would be
so
wonderful.
my eldest son actually spent 3 years memorizing the Holy Quran in Fez. So he had the full Moroccan experience, and he's also been part of Al Firdaus for some of our tours, singing as a vocalist, and also as a Quran reciter as well.
Mashallah.
And yeah, so Always. Oh, Elias. Yeah, it's time now for our first song. Can you get Always? Yeah. So my eldest son, who was born in Damascus, his name is Muhammad Ilyas. Yeah. And then my youngest son is is Uwais. Mahmoud Uwais. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to take my earphones off for this. It's going to be more comfortable.
Sure.
And we'll see what we can do, inshallah.
Thank you.
Hey. Okay, so
Salam
right,
alaikum.
I have, this is
How are you? Yes, and away.
This
nice
is
to meet you.
The 11 years old, yeah, and he's in the mosque choir, which you know, I've been hoping to direct, and then we have Ilyas here, the eldest, and he just joined us yesterday. He was in quarantine, you know, so somewhere else in Granada.
Okay.
So he's, welcome home.
Welcome home. I hope you're well. I hope all of you are well.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the camera back so maybe you can see us a bit better. Okay.
And what will you be singing?
Yeah, I thought we could do one of our classics, which is a favorite which is called Celtic Silhouette.
Yes.
Okay. Don't have too much room here, but do you want to move up a little bit? Yeah.
What a treat. What a treat. Thank you.
Muhammad Rasulullah, Muhammad Nabiullah, Muhammad Habibullah, alayhi salatullah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Muhammad Habibullah, Muhammad Habibullah, alayhi salawatullah. رب صل عليه وسلم يا رسول الله يا نبي الله يا نبي الله يا حبيب الله يا حبيبي عليك صلوات الله يا رسول الله يا رسول الله يا نبي الله يا نبي الله يا حبيب الله يا حبيبي عليك صلوات الله صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم يا رسول الله يا نبي الله يا نبي الله يا حبيب الله يا حبيبي عليك صلوات الله يا رسول الله يا رسول الله يا نبي الله يا نبي الله يا حبيب الله يا حبيبي عليك صلوات الله
Hey! Clap.
Right.
Amazing, amazing. That was so beautiful. What a treat. What a treat to have a private concert all the way from Granada. And
Right. I hope that wasn't too long, but
not
anyway.
at all, not at all. I think I may ask you to do one more song before our session is over. That was beautiful, beautiful. And thank you, Owais and Ilyas, for joining. Beautiful.
Can I just ask how many people are online?
How many people? We've got 51 at the moment, and it's
Right.
ranged between 50 and 60. And I'd like to add, friends on the line, if you'd like to ask a question, please type it in the chat or chime in. This is it's wonderful to have your questions asked as well. And may I ask Ali if you can talk a little bit about this music? It's such a mix of different sounds from different cultural influences. Can you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, you're asking about what brought me to Granada, no? I don't know if it's yeah. So yeah, after nearly nearly 10 years in Damascus, I felt that it was time to return to Europe, and but I wasn't very keen on the idea of going back to England. You know, I had become accustomed to the Mediterranean environment. You know, sun and you know, sunshine, basically. Anyway, and I was very drawn to the idea of living in Spain, and I'd already discovered Granada several years before. I used to go. Granada was already like a refuge for me. Every year I would go for holidays to Granada, and I got to know the community there through a friend who I went on Hajj with at the age of 19 from Granada. he was the one who invited me. And so that was a real discovery. Just my first trip to Granada was a mind blower. I mean, Islam right in the heart of Europe, you know, this amazing Alhambra Palace, you know, it's just incredible. So I had like seeds of love for this Al-Andalus, no? And then I, you know, ended up by fortune to marry a lady from Spain. You know, my wife is from Madrid, and so we wanted to be also close to her family. Her parents were her father passed away, but her parents were, you know, elderly, and so we thought we should be close to them. But we spent just 1 week in Madrid, you know, and said, "Oh, we can't live it here," you know. It's just, and so then immediately we went to Granada, and that's where we started our home. And in Granada, I met European Muslims, you know, Spanish Muslims who were doing music, you know. I thought, wow, you know. And I started getting back into music. And I started to apply the knowledge that I'd received in Damascus, the songs that I'd learnt. I started learning to play them on the violin, and also to try to play the maqams. And the maqams are like the musical modes. And a friend opened a cafe that he called Konya, after Mevlana, you know, Konya, and had a musical stage. And so I used to play with friends, not thinking about the idea of doing this for a career. I was doing other things, you know, in terms of making my living. And then people said, "Oh, you sound really good." And some members of the Firdaus, I mean, one in particular was from that day was with us, our cellist, Salma. She goes back right to that beginning. And that was we had a first group, which some of you, you know, some would know, which is called Kawthar. But anyway, so, you know, people said, "Oh, you sound good, you should record something." And then we recorded, and then we were invited by Abdul Samad Romero, who's a friend of the director of the Sacred Music Festival in Fez, which is a very important festival for that kind of music. So we were basically invited to perform without being in the program. And we went on it was like a caravan with our families. We went to Fez. It was amazing, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, we all stayed in this riad, you know, so many people.
What year was this?
This was back in 2000, I think it was like 2007 or 8, 2007, 8, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and that was the first big opening. It was Fez. We were on this stage with this huge tree, you know, shading us, and we did this concert, and people were just so moved, and you know, we sold out of our first CD. You know, it was a complete sellout. And so that was our first, should we say, taste of success, and it led, you know, it led from there. So, and then, you know, later, you know, Kawthar broke up, you know, and I started Al-Firdaus. You know, this was with some members who had already within Kawthar, and a new singer who has really, should we say, elevated our group with his voice and also his percussion. Omar bin Lemli from Fez, actually. He's originally from Morocco, but was living here in Spain. He's now gone back to Morocco to help his family business. But so we have like 2 singers in the group. Also, he has a very high voice, so it's very complimentary. I have my range is like lower. So, and then we started to collaborate with also other musicians like flamenco guitarists. In fact, we collaborate with quite a few musicians from Spain and also outside Spain. But our core group is our Kanunist, who is also with us in the Kawthar days. Yusuf, and he's an amazing musician because he has played with all the great orchestras of Morocco, and he's very well known. He's also performed with the great singers of flamenco, the legends, some of them who have passed away in Spain. There's a historic relationship between Moroccan and flamenco music going back 50 years. And this is like, especially started between Tetuan, which is also under the Spanish, you know, so that obviously helped Tetuan and Andalusia. You know, the recordings that are very old, and there's so much, there's a real connection. So in our music, we have all these different strains. You've heard the Celtic, and I think part of that is because we have such a mix of musicians. We have our Moroccan musicians, we have Spanish, and then we have myself. I bring the Celtic element into it, and maybe my classical background. Our cellist is classically trained. In fact, we've got two cellists. You know, sometimes one is not available, so they're both classically trained. So they have that harmony, you know, because we use an element of harmony, although it's not essential to our music, but we do use an element of harmony sometimes. And then, so we have different aspects. We have the folk aspect, and then we have the Andalusian, and we have also the flamenco. We've got flamenco guitarists that we collaborate with, and you can hear that on the second CD, Noor. There is, we have two pieces which have this flamenco element, which marries so well with Arabic and Andalusian music. Yeah.
Your ensemble is such a mix of people from different backgrounds and cultures. Your music has so many cultural influences. You're in a city that's been at a crossroads for culture. I wonder if you can take a few minutes to just talk about the role of music, the role that music can play in building bridges between cultures, and perhaps if there's a specific example, a concert or an experience where you've seen your music really bring that to light.
Yeah, music is a universal language, and it speaks to, should we say, the fitra, the human essence, you know, which is one, you know, whatever your cultural background, whatever your religion, you know, it's this shared humanity that music speaks to, and that's why, I mean, even the most, you know, spiritual music, the Quran recitation moves people who may not have any faith. It speaks to them, and they understand it, you know. They don't understand it maybe intellectually, but their souls, because all our souls are believe. They're in connection with Allah, in connection with God, whether we recognize it or not. And this is why the word kufr means covering. One who rejects a kafir is one who covers the truth in his heart, you know. But music has this power to go through, to penetrate that cover and speak to people, you know. So, and we've had so many experiences of this, you know, in multi-religious audiences. It was very interesting because recently we had a concert with the three cultures, the three religions. I mean, often there are events here in Spain to celebrate the convivencia, you know, between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And we performed in the cathedral in Madrid.
Amazing.
in the cathedral, which is called El Mudaina.
Uh-huh.
Means small Medina, and it's situated on the old is the remains of the old Islamic city. Madrid is actually an Islamic city, founded by one of the Umayyad emirs. It's very, very. So this strategic place on the Manzanares River is where the cathedral is. And we did a performance with there were other groups. There was a Jewish group and there was a Christian group. And we came last, which I thought was nice and also fitting. So, and we had a dervish as well. And it was completely full, the cathedral, completely full. And there were demonstrations outside against this event. You know, this is... There was quite a big demonstration of right-wing, you know, Christians. That how could this happen? You know, these Muslims performing in a cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
It's still in Spain. There's quite a lot of tension, you know. Although it's improved, of course, but the past lives on. You know, the spirit of the Reconquista is still very much alive. You know. So, but Alhamdulillah, for example, in Ramadan, we had a public iftar, and the bishop of 1,500 people came to this iftar. This was a few years ago.
Amazing.
And they had harira, they had soup, and they enjoyed, you know, they shared this important moment for the Muslims, and everyone was happy, you know, so happy. And then 3 days later, there was a big demonstration against this, you know, and it went viral actually. And the Bishop of Granada, he actually denounced, should we say, the people who did the demonstration. He defended the iftar, you know. So things are improving, you know, but still there's resistance and ignorance.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. I'm just going to go to, I think somebody's microphone's on, if they can turn.
There's absolutely no reason for it not to be on.
I'm going to just turn to the chat. There are a couple of comments coming in. One says that, do you all ever come to the States? And I know you have several times come to the US, certainly to DC and elsewhere. From Nuzat, she writes that she saw you perform at Willowbrook Farm Festival 2 years ago. The combination of being outdoors in nature amongst friends and hearing your wonderful sound was truly memorable.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to take a minute to introduce you to someone that I believe is on this call. Isam, are you on this call? Isam Bachiri of
Yes,
Oh,
yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you, but we can't see you. Just wanted to take this opportunity to connect you both again. I understand you met last year, and we had the pleasure of speaking a couple of weeks ago with Isam, and it was wonderful to hear his personal story, and particularly his gathering stories from his father, from his family, for a book that is coming out soon. And you know, at Concordia, we are all about making these connections, connecting people who are doing good, spreading music, sharing art, and oh, wonderful. So please, if you'd like to ask a question or just say hello, I'd love to.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of Ali Keeler, and we had the pleasure of doing something together in Rosales last year, and I was very and the beautiful brother Ali Keeler, he has this he's one of his talents is that he can always, you know, he can always blend in, and that is truly what an artist, a good artist, is about. And that's also about, you know, like he's telling his stories about bringing people together from different faiths, different ethnic groups, and that's you know, that's one of the meanings of life, and our deen as well. So it was beautiful to see how he just he just freestyled, basically came in, pretty much stole the show.
No, not at all. It was a marriage of souls, Sidi. It was a synthesis. A moment, a special moment.
It was definitely a moment. It was definitely a moment. MashaAllah.
Yeah, and
MashaAllah.
may there be many more moments, inshallah.
Inshallah.
We share together, inshallah. I hope you're doing well, Isam. Please give my salam to your family.
I will, inshallah. Likewise, and please keep being creative. Keep sharing your light with the world. It's you know, it reaches out there, and it touches a lot of hearts, and it inspires us as well. So, barakallahu feek.
Alhamdulillah. You too, Sidi. You too.
Thank
Keep
you.
it up, mashallah.
Thank you.
You're doing great work. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you so much, Sam, for joining in. You know, these Concordia Zoom sessions are making our world a little bit smaller and us feel not isolated. In fact, even more connected in a way than we did before. So appreciate you joining. And Ali, I'd like to ask you one more question before I ask you to sing another song. I just want to ask Ali, what is a reflection that you're, you know, thinking about at this time? You know, a personal thought that you're, you know, that's on your mind, that in this particular time of uncertainty and pain for so many, and crisis situation around the world, what is something that you're reflecting on?
That this condition that the whole of the world has been thrown into unexpectedly is the greatest blessing that I think I've experienced for years. This is an opportunity for people to reflect, take stock of where we're going with this mad, crazy world, you know, which is just consuming the planet, which is inhuman. This machine, the greed machine, okay, is just suddenly come to a halt, you know. It's suddenly, and the planet is breathing. You can hear the birds singing. You can suddenly there's this pause. It's like suddenly Allah has pressed the pause button.
Yes.
Okay? And this is at the same time as our blessed months of Rajab, Shaban, which Rajab is the time of spiritual retreat. It's when it almost began at the beginning of Rajab, and this is a time when people are put in 40 days of retreat. You know, those who are, you know, doing a spiritual retreat. So this is for everyone. It's a very difficult time, you know, economically, but it's a great opportunity. And of course, this is also there's been a lot of solidarity in community. You know, there's community spirit of looking after each other. Many people can't go out to get food, and or they're in need. They don't have an income. So it's actually bringing people together. We do have the benefit of obviously of technology to help us keep in contact, connection. And family to be in. I mean, I've never spent such quality, because as a musician, last year was crazy. I was traveling so much, and I'm just enjoying so much spending quality time with the family and watching Ertugrul, by the way. So,
okay, wonderful.
Anyway,
That's
so
beautiful.
I think it's and also it's a time to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, to connect with the Holy Quran, and to reflect and just connect with our innermost selves, you know. It's a
Yes.
great opportunity. What can I say? You know, alhamdulillah.
Yes, thank you. A beautiful reflection. I'm going to ask one question that's on the chat. I'm conscious of our time as well. We've got 5 minutes left, but I do want to ask you to sing another song for us. So perhaps just very quickly, I'd like to ask Hussein Jan Muhammad has a question. Salam Hussein, he says, I'd like to ask Ali about his thoughts on music education, particularly for young Muslims, what role it can play. What are some entry points into providing that musical or sonic education, particularly when public school systems are cutting music programs, and also in a context where in some instances Muslims view music as haram?
Yeah, yeah. This is a very important concern. I'm actually in the last couple of years, I've been more involved also in teaching singing. I direct the choir here, and it's such a bonus, and it's so important for children to learn music, learn to sing. I mean, the first thing is that they learn to sing, you know, and you don't need an institution for that. You need to. There are so many great singers all over the Muslim world, especially now, you know, after Syria, after what happened in Syria, you know, so many great singers who can teach, and also, I mean, also within the classical, you know, classical music, I think is a good training. It is a problem that the idea, and it's done a lot of damage, the fact that, you know, this idea that music is haram, and means that a lot of Muslims have absolutely no training, and then they say, oh, I want to learn to sing, and you find that they don't you know, that they haven't had any musical training, whereas before, you know, in schools, I know it's difficult now, but before in schools, it was like, you know, you had that basic musical training. So I would say that also now online, you know, you can have access to people who can teach, you know. So if there are no institutions, if the institutions are not providing this training, then yeah, you need to find a private teacher. But it's very important that there is in the medieval curriculum, I think there's 4 subjects. Was it the quadrivium? Somebody can correct. Were music, mathematics, and was it geometry? Anyway, somebody could correct me, but music was very much part of education, and it's very important for the brain, for our emotional development, which has been totally neglected by the Muslim community, which is understandable. That, you know, it's like you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or what else? I think an architect, maybe. There are just a few positions. Arts are useless, you know.
Right.
So and that's part of survival. You know, obviously, in the last years, Muslims have been, you know, trying to survive, you know, improve their situation. But the situation has changed now, and I think that the time has come, and it is changing. There's, mashallah, you know, it's changing. Alhamdulillah, a lot of young people are into the arts and are also learning traditional singing, traditional arts, which is great. Yeah.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you so much for that. And Ali, you have to promise us, please, to come back for one more session so we can hear another song and hear your story continued. Really, it's been such an honor, such a pleasure for me to meet you in this way, and I look forward to meeting you in person, inshallah, one day, and certainly to hearing the Al Firdaus Ensemble perform. Thank you again for this wonderful conversation. It's 12 o'clock now, so I think I need to pass it on to Mudassir. but with thanks from all of us. Thank you, Ali. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just want to add my thanks to that, Ali. So wonderful to see you and to hear you again. Stay safe, inshallah.
And you also, Mudathir. Thank you very much for thinking of me and inviting me onto the program.
Always hope to see you again soon. And thank you, Salma, for hosting so wonderfully. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Ali Keeler and Salma Ali from Granada and Washington, respectively. You're listening to the Concordia Forum Zoom distant socializing sessions. We've been running since 10 a.m. UK time this morning, and alhamdulillah, we've had a number of very, very successful and interesting sessions. We're now moving on to our next session, which I am going to introduce the host and moderator for this session, a dear friend of ours, all the way from Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, Professor Zulfikar. Professor, over to you.